Hey everybody, my name is Kevin,
I'm Kayla,
and we love movies.
and talking about them.
And this is the Martini Window, back from a little bit of a slumber, a little bit of a hibernation, if you will. Hiatus, I think we call it in our industry. We're back. It's been about a year and a half, but we're back, and we are better than ever because today we have a lovely guest who is a friend, a colleague, a fellow artist, director of A Perfect 14, producer of Girl Gone Bad. Everybody, Giovanna Morales Vargas. Gio, thank you for joining us on our season 2 premiere.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you too. I'm so excited to be here and to be, I know about your podcast for a while and I'm excited to talk about our movie today. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh man, we are thrilled to have you.
Absolutely. And as a side note, we know Gio outside of this. We've been friends for years. But whenever we talk about movies, you have like such an interesting perspective. I'm very excited to talk about your movie today.
It won the 4 Academy Awards in 2019.
See?
Those Academy Awards being for Best International Feature, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and the first non-English language movie in history to win Best Picture.
Exactly. Directed by the amazing Bong Joon-ho.
Director of such films as Okja, The Host, and a personal favorite, Memories of a Murder.
Why I love Bong's work is because he's always talking about deeper things within his movies, and his movies always contain all the symbolic aspects to it that
There's a lot of symbolism in his work.
Yes, he's always interested in social inequality, capitalism topics, and things within his movies. I think he's amazing. And what he did with Parasite was out of this world. The first time I saw that movie, I went by myself to the theater because I was so excited to watch it. And I said, I want to enjoy this on my own. I just went to be alone in the theater watching it. I knew it was going to be something special, but I came out like, wow, this is just so unique. And it's that word that artists do that really changed the perspective of other people that make art, the right movies. Even after I watched that movie, it's like, how many possibilities do you have to create really entertaining stories that talk about deep topics and also make something fun and be passionate about it. You can do both. You can do three, all of them. So yeah, I love his work.
Which is a wonderful way of saying that today's movie is Parasite. We actually completely skipped over saying the movie.
It probably could be my fault.
Oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. All right, so, yes, today's movie is Parasite, so eloquently put by Giovanna.
When I finished watching this movie, I kind of felt like you could take any still frame from it and it would look poetic somehow in whatever message it was showing. There would always be a strange, subtle counter within the set decoration or within the position.
Agree completely.
Yeah, and actually starting that topic right there, I actually want to talk about the house. The house is basically another character in this movie, in my opinion. And it was constructed very precisely from Bong Joon-ho, to my understanding. Like every single molecule, every single step, every single foot of that was directly planned from the get-go with the script in mind.
It was 2 locations.
It was 2 locations.
It was 1 lot for all of the yard scenes.
What I'm saying is the actual geography of the house and the actual architecture of the home is very well put in place. If I'm not mistaken, even before the script was fully finalized.
Yeah.
Which actually, I totally get, like, Gio, you're a director as well. And maybe you've come across this, like the idea of actually knowing where you're shooting, having some sort of motivation in what you're writing.
And I think that's how Bong wrote the actual film in relation to the house. The house was always a character for him, and he knew that these people needed to fit into this house and how the house would look. If you look about the deeper significance of all the things that he did, for example, the stairs are always indicating going up, for example, those stairs that were going up the second floor to the kids' rooms, that symbolism of the rich, right? The rich always going up and the poor always going down and living, underground. All those references were made within the house itself. Think about the house and all the big windows that it had. Is the luxury that you possess when you're rich to have all this view and this private view. But then you go to the actual king's house, and the king's house, they also had a view, but we know what kind of view they had, right? Like people urinating and just how terrible the situation is within the neighborhood they were in. So you can see those things that were built very deliberately in order to create the film as it is.
And to create the rich house and put those elements together, actually, I was doing a bit of research, and the film actually has 480 visual effects in it, though most of them are invisible, and most of them relate to putting the house together. with green screen and stuff like that.
Makes sense. Wolf of Wall Street did a lot of that too to maintain budget. They did very similar stuff. And one thing I want to say too is the way Bong Joon-ho's shot design goes throughout this movie. The DOP of the movie. Who was the DOP of Parasite? Han Kyung-kyo. The way Han Kyung-kyo lit and actually achieved some of the design of this movie, I think, speaks a lot to how they actually portray this character. This house is the character itself.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make, one example I want to put in is how the way it's shot and the way that they design is everything's at very, as I was saying earlier, very ascending sort of levels. Cameras are always of a kind of a slightly degree or two up, not high angles, mind you, but it's never at a certain situation where you're looking down on anything in there, with the exception, of course, the main family. The name escapes me at the moment. Not the Parks. The other one, the name is
Kim.
which. How horrible when the theme of this movie is about classism. I can't remember the name of the main family, but I remember the Parks.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, man. What I love about that is when we get to that moment, in the second half of the movie where we see the underground bunker and just suddenly the way it kind of guides you in and the way it's kind of almost inviting you to this darker abyss that lives underneath. I just find that so fascinating because they do that a lot of that with their camera work and they do a lot of that with the lighting. And, we're talking earlier about the actual, the lighting, the design of the house and the gorgeous bay window shot with that outside loving shot. It just kind of takes everything from this blissful, opening, comforting view. And the more you go underneath, the more it gets closed and confined.
You're so right. You're so right. Think about how symmetric and stylized the shots for the Parks family scenes is. And then when either we're in the Kim's house or when we're going to the bunker, all the shots are handheld and really, have a lot of movement. The ones for the Parks family are very symmetric, very uptight, almost like they are themselves. And that manages to tell you the big differences that I think is the good job of an amazing director, knowing exactly where he wants and knowing how to even suggest camera movements in order to convey the whole sense of where we really are in this world. And we, as audience, at least that's how I felt, is that we understand both sides. We understand, well, maybe the ratio is different, but we even understand a bit of it. And we connect with these worlds in a different way, but we're really close to it. Is the camera work.
I also love the difference between, the Parks and the Kim's houses. But I love that with the Parks house, even with this opulent land and this amazing house, they still have a secret bunker that's almost worse than what the Kim's house is like.
Yeah.
It's it shows that it's not even a difference of where you're living in town, but it's the dark side of even the shiniest objects there.
Yeah, and again, it is extreme representation. Not all people that live with a lower income live underground. We're not saying that, but it is obviously it's a movie. It's extreme representation. And to be fair, in South Korea, that seems to be a lot of the cases for people who are living in lower incomes.
Well, actually, funnily enough, I remember reading not long after this movie became successful, the success of Parasite and the focus on the sub-basements that they actually provoked the South Korean government to apparently look into the sub-basements and the quality of living.
Wow.
And actually, I don't know what they did. I'm not promising here that they did anything. Please do not send me hate mail if you're saying that actually it's actually worse now than it was back then. But my point is, though, is that, apparently did start actually looking into that and looking into the quality of living based on the success of this, at the time, completely unheard of success for a South Korean movie. Of course, now we live in a post-Squid Game world, and we're in a completely different point now. But, I mean, for that level of impact to come from a movie that to this day doesn't even have a dubbed version.
Absolutely.
And this movie was very much a movie I was told go into it without asking any questions. Don't ask me what it's about. Just it's about a kid who tutors at a rich house.
Yeah, that was me. I was saying that.
Yes.
And well, what a good piece of advice to provide, because you don't want to know anything going into this movie. It's just really chucks you at every corner with everything they do. You want to discover everything while you're watching it.
This is probably where I should put in the reminder to everybody. This is a spoiler-filled podcast. Just a heads up. This is not a spoiler-free podcast whatsoever. If you have not seen Parasite, actually stop listening now and come back after you've watched it.
Yes.
All right. On to Parasite. So, one thing I want to talk about is about the screenplay of this movie and the direction of it. Actually, I'm going to focus primarily on the screenplay here for a moment because the screenplay, in my opinion, is bloody immaculate. I consider this to be one of the top 10 screenplays I've actually ever read. And I don't read Korean, so I've had to read an English translation and see it the way I have in the movie. But the structure that it comes in is in the top 10, up there with Chinatown, up there with Back to the Future. And yeah, I see you rolling your eyes on that second one, Gio. But
No, I freaking love Back to the Future.
But the actual, as a construction of a screenplay, much like Parasite and Back to the Future, both those movies, the second act turnaround, the moment where it kicks into action, what you have to do to get out of this, comes in exactly halfway through this movie. And we actually paused it and we saw that at an hour and 3 minutes of this 2 hour and 6 minute movie. They're having their beers, they're having their drinks, they're having a great time in the house, and then you hear the doorbell ring.
But before, there is a big storm.
The foreshadowing the rain is an interesting one because it's used as the different metaphor for both classes literally in the scene afterwards. Where the birthday party? Because they say, oh, it's always good to have a nice rain. It just washes everything away. Well, the other families just lost their home.
Yeah. Oh, and it clears the pollution. And, that's
Yeah,
where
where's pollution go?
yeah, but it clears the pollution. It's good for us. It's good for us. And what is interesting about that second part of this movie, too, in terms of actually writing, is how incredible and realistic it is to put these two families of very low income to fight against each other. Because that's where in a capitalistic world works, right? Like we have the people who are at the bottom fighting against each other. Like we do it every day on Facebook when here is the Democrat, here is the Republican talking about the US politics and how they just are trying to fight each other. We don't want nobody wants us to be united, so now we see those two families like she started out of like, oh, help me, right, help me, and they just like became this completely chaos that they hate each other and they're fighting each other and killing each other.
Bong Joon-ho's views on classism are definitely not subtle.
Nope.
This movie literally ends with poor killing rich, poor killing poor. Quite literally, too, at the birthday party from hell. That ends this movie on. Everything about this is about the poor fighting for the scraps of the rich, to the point of like the actual premise of the movie, them taking over the jobs and fighting them out. And
Actually, one of my favorite scenes is at the end of the movie where the guy from the cellar, he's been stabbed, he's on the ground, the keys are on the ground, and the rich father comes forward and he just snips his nose, like he looks down his nose at him and covers his nose to get the keys.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about anyone else that's been hurt. And it's just, you'd hate him with such a visceral reaction.
well, he has that talk earlier about wet cloth being the smell of poor people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a theme within the movie. Even the wife, when she's sitting in the car with Mr. Ken, she actually at some point goes like, and she opens the window. And that all adds for Mr. Ken to kind of be like down with these people. Like these people are horrible and I don't care what is going to happen now. So yeah, it's the representation of to the within the movie, within the story, is representation of the part. They smell poor. They smell poor to me, right? Like and that is perfectly played at that moment. He's like, he's so detached.
Hateable.
He's so detached. He's like, the only thing that he's caring about is this horrible smell to him. So he's not even worrying about people being like almost dying. It's iconic the way this writer writes. It's iconic. I don't even know how to describe this.
The casting in that movie is, I found, through the roof. Like the actor played Mr. Park, Lee Sung-kyung. So he's unfortunately no longer with us. However, his performance as Mr. Park in this movie was absolutely incredible because it told this perfect line of like very upstanding business-esque gentleman while also just being so despicable on just the most common things, like things that kind of separate him from being relatable or likable. He doesn't see himself as a more fortunate human. He sees himself as something above the rest.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite comparisons of that is talking about how it's inappropriate to have sex in the car. And then he's basically having sex with his wife, knowing there's a chance his son might see him.
Might see it. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just fully assuming they eventually had sex. That is purely my own assumption, but it's just, it's these interesting little kind of counterpoints to the whole thing. Like, or even just the way he treats his daughter. Even the way he treats her. The Ramdon scene being a good example of that, where she's saying, I like Ramdon too. You could have joined with me. You asked father.
You asked everybody. You didn't even ask me.
Mhm.
I found that really interesting too.
I'm not sure if it's changed, but I know there's a big preference for boys in South Korea.
They seem to be rather traditional in the family structure with that sort of thing.
And I think you really can, see that in this film. I actually feel really bad for the daughter in this because she really did nothing. She's just a nice girl.
How old is she supposed to be in this movie?
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering.
We're all wondering that too, right? She's sophomore in high school, so 15?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Korea different like that? Because maybe it's a cultural thing, but I did notice it was a weirdly acceptable concept that this college age student is going to wait for her to go into university. Is that a cultural thing that we don't know about?
I think, for example, in my country, in Colombia, it's more, I'm not saying that it's acceptable, but it's less, like
It's not seen as like the same sort of predatory.
it's a case by case, but it's more open there. So I cannot say this for South Korea. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised because it seems to be treated in a way that is no weird or bad necessarily. Even when she asked her mom, "Oh, can I invite Kevin? Is Kevin or?" They call it Kevin. Can I invite Kevin to come to the party? And she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." Like she doesn't see it as something weird. So I don't know. I think you might be right.
It also makes me wonder because she was clearly doing that with her previous tutor.
Yeah.
Or is she like so isolated at home where she doesn't go anywhere that she just kind of attaches herself to like the next cute tutor who's with her?
Yeah, it's probably a way of trying to escape her current situation because that's what happened with a lot of girls, unfortunately, especially how she feels. I don't think she feels happy in there. She's always like in her room or away from them, except when she has to go to camping. But yeah, I think it's a way of her trying to find a way to escape from that family, probably. And as you say, she's the only one that is kind of nice. She doesn't come across as somebody that you would like.
Someone who's just used to being ignored.
Yeah, actually, I found that the actor who played her, Jung Ji So was her name. She played that role so well. She was about 18 years old when they made the movie.
Okay.
So she was clearly playing like somebody 14, 15. I thought she played the role remarkably well, I thought. And to toe that line at that age of like, you kind of have to seem not aloof, but you got to play it off like you're not fully intending to go after the guy. You're not fully intending to make yourself seem standoffish or not feel, it's just, there's a lot of different roles that's playing, which I really enjoyed about this movie.
At least three. You start with a dark comedy, you move into like kind of a thriller, and you end up in a really like horror slash.
Call the last third of that movie.
It's horror at the end. So it's at least three genres. It's a fully bending genre movie that works so well in that.
And the comedy in it is so well done. To me, I really love the comedy of when you see them trying to be around the corner in the house and it's really tense, but there's something really funny about them just trying to hide so no one will see them. They almost get caught so many times. Like they are so lucky that they even got out of there.
I always love that bit because they always remind me of like looking at the Scooby-Doo gang, looking over a wall or something like that. And it's like this movie at this point, the stakes are so high for this family. And to just watch this, and the camera does creep around. It creeps around like you're watching like a Hanna-Barbera bit where it's like four people's heads on top of the wall kind of peeking out the window. But it's like an actual intense scene where you realize there's a hidden person living underneath this friggin' house.
It's crazy. I think that it's something to say also about how the director manages to deal with the drama because it feels like a lot of Korean series are very like soap opera kind of look and feel to it. And almost you feel a little bit of it in this film, but in a very sophisticated way. But there are parts of it that feel really dramatic, like a very over the top. But I think it's just so well mixed within the story and
Really well without taking away from the tension. Like I was watching it and I'm like, that's really funny, but I was also still feeling the tension at the same time. So the ability to do that is really amazing.
percent agree. And the comedy that is always throughout it, like we as audience, even though we know that the difficult situation they're in, we still manage to laugh at every moment of this movie. Like,
The situations these people are in are undoubtedly hilarious. The amount of times that you get situations in that back half of the movie of them like getting stuck under a couch while the parks are, as I mentioned earlier, like, doing it on that couch.
Of course.
Of course, it didn't stop where they were at.
yeah.
It's like $5,000 beef that you're cutting in there. It was like Japanese Hanbu beef, which is just insanely expensive beyond Wagyu.
Yeah.
And just there's like an inherent hilarity to that. Just no matter what the stakes are, that is an inherently funny thing. And just even anything outside of that, like why is it that this kid's so obsessed with Native American culture right now? Why?
Yeah, that's like a really tough
A weird one though, isn't it?
topic. But I think it was created that way also with that intention to kind of say there is this little kid being a fanatic and it's not just that there is any possibility to even be a fan of Native American culture. It's not just the way that is, but again, for people of that level of being rich and being powerful and no understanding.
Because at one point the mother says that he didn't like all of the Native American stuff until he was in Scouts, and then he must have really liked his Scout leader.
Yeah, I do feel that there's somebody said there that the family being the obvious example of a 1% family and a family of high financial control. I kind of get the sense here that one of the main things it's saying is that us poors need to worry about things like appropriation, cancellation, stuff like that. There comes a certain point where you're at their echelon. These aren't even things they have to wonder about or worry about.
Yeah.
Cultural, appropriation probably means nothing to these sort of people. And you know what I mean? Because it's not like anything's going to hurt them.
I mean, even colonization, even I might be going too far into this, but even the family living space and the housekeeper's husband living in the bunker, like a statement of I'm staying in this house. This house also belongs to us, kind of thing. It is almost a way of like who is taking whose space, basically.
Well, I mean, they are all parasites.
They are all.
But even on top of that, though, what's interesting is that even when you parallel the Kims with the family of the maid, I can't remember her name at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult to remember all names, so that's why I'm saying like the housekeeper, the Kim's father.
I'm trying my best. I swear to God.
My favorite is Jessica.
There we go. These are the parallels between
Jessica from Illinois.
when you're looking at the parallels between the Kim family as well as the other family of the housemaid there with her husband. Even the husband's the way he looks at Mr. Park is like of a level of idolatry. He sees him as a God-given entity or a god of himself. He's basically praying to this damn dude. He sees the home that he has that nobody can ever know about, the room that he can never leave. He'll never see sunlight. He'll never see this. That. He sees that as a gift bestowed to him as billionaire, whereas the Kim family sees it as we are owed this for the shit that we deal with. And what's kind of funny about this is that neither side of this is correct, in my opinion. I also don't feel like billionaires should exist, so I also don't think they should be able to. They should be spreading some of that wealth. It's fascinating because when you look into that, like even with the same objective in mind of each one of them calling this place their home, they're not even on the same page of why they're allowed to be there and why they deserve to be there.
That is a really good interpretation of that whole situation too. And even even like the Kim's family to come and say we're taking over, right?
Yeah, they're absolutely taken over because they're going to get booted out as soon as.
Well,
This is what I always find interesting about this. Like, what's your end game here? Where do you go with it? You're going to pretend to live in the house. You're going to drink all their booze. You're not going to be able to pay for that to put it back. Like, what you're going to be doing all this random stuff that they're absolutely eventually going to find out about. You didn't cut any of the security cams. You didn't cut any of the other thought. The housemaid says, "Oh, I cut the security cam. Don't worry about that." And thank God she did, or else your guys' asses are all we're all just caught. Did you ever thought about this? You got way too comfortable.
actually, there was a point in the movie where if they hadn't gotten too big and too greedy by going there to drink there, and if they just stuck to the plan, they actually probably could have had a better life.
But then the father tells Kevin that when they're in this big place, where was it? Like after the storms and everything, that they go stay there for a night.
Oh,
It was like a shelter or something.
it was like a refuge shelter.
Right. He says that to his son, like his son is asking, what is the plan, Dad? Because you told us there was a plan. And then he said, like, the best plan is not a plan, is not to have a plan. So it seems at some point they didn't even know where they were going with this whole thing. Like they had a plan up to a certain point and they reached the point that they didn't know and they got too greedy, as you said.
It was very much not thought out.
Well, I think it's also very much what's weird about this is a very small scale interpretation of greed of a billionaire. And what I found fascinating about this movie is Bong Joon-ho. I mean, we know he comes from working class. We know all that. He's talked about that before. What I find very interesting about this is he actually isn't really going 100% even on this side of the poor for this. You know what I mean? He's showing consequences for what they're doing, and he's showing that greed takes them over at the same little 0.5% scale that this guy has to a big level. Our listeners can't see this right now, but I'm holding my hands to show the sizes of scale. So my point is, though, is that I do find it kind of fascinating that regardless of class dictates so much of what we do, and our financial situation dictates most of our decision making in society. Obviously, this isn't 100% either way, but what I'm fascinated about is that he's showing that while that is true, there are moments where human nature takes over, to say the least. And that's kind of where I see like the greed aspect. Like the billionaires' greed to a grand scale. There comes a point where the desire for more takes over. And there comes a point where the desire for consumption takes over. These people are calling this house a house they live in, their home. They're deluding themselves into thinking that this is an actual lifestyle they've had. When Kill is right, if they maintained their course of action, they would have had a better life. And unfortunately, I think this is also a scaled showing of what happens when the average person from that part of the financial economic line tries to make it big, which is a theme that comes in later on when we hear the son having his monologue and when he's giving his letter about what he's going to do. I'm going to buy that house. He's never going to buy that house.
Exactly, but that's a way of capitalism working for the working class, if you want to call them, is that aspirational dream that we all have. Oh, one day I'm gonna have that house, and you bet, like, I bet your ass that I'm gonna get this house, and I'm gonna work my ass off. And no, you're not gonna get that house. I mean, you could, but but would you? Is that the aspiration we want to have as human beings? It's like, I want to have this materialistic thing that represents how am I going to feel successful in society by owning the house. Of course, his purpose was different at the end. It's like, I need to save my dad. But it was always that purpose anyway. So he doesn't change his course of action. He said, okay, I'm still going to get the house because I have to save my dad now.
And actually, Bong Joon-ho calculated how long it would take him to buy that house with his salary, and it was 540 years.
Oh, there you go.
Well, if you get a nice 4% compound interest, it's going to be 320 years.
By the fountain of youth.
Unless he just becomes rich for some reason. That is like that very small percentage of it.
Oh, that's a great idea. Let's just get rich. But I mean, that's exactly it. Like, there's a lot of stats to show that people don't become billionaires without generational wealth or exploitation of others.
Yeah.
In this guy's situation, he's got no generational wealth to speak of, and he's got nobody to exploit. So they tried the exploitation part and they went too far for their own britches.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what it's saying, though. Like, this is where that vicious cycle comes in. And I'm talking about scalability because it really is that. They got really heavy, and when greed took over, they weren't in a position where they were allowed to have greed take over. And that reality came to fruition. And even if they had that, here's the crazy thing about that. Even if the housekeeper never came back, even if she never rang that doorbell, they still would have had this fail for them because no matter what, the family was coming home in like an hour from that time.
Yeah.
And the cameras would not have been cut.
Cameras wouldn't have been caught.
Yeah. Yeah. And also something that I want to say about that too is that I think that is one of the reasons why this film resonated so well with like this side of the world kind of audiences, because we also are living in North America, South America, so on. We're living this now. We're living this like huge gap between like what the social inequality is now. There is a huge gap. We also see that. So when we're watching a movie like that, we relate to it. It resonates with us in some way because we understand what the director is trying to say and the writer is trying to say with this movie by the social inequality and all that it brings to the world and to people and humans and how we interact with each other. So I think that was a big reason why this movie resonated with so many audiences here.
And what did they say in the movie? They said that the rich people are nice because they're rich. She's like, do you know how nice I'd be if I had this much money?
Man, I wish more rich people were nice like that. What's interesting is like, as they say that too, we know how Mr. Park sees them. He sees them as, just this cretins for his services is kind of how I think he sort of sees these people.
Even his wife, when she's inviting them to Jessica's birthday party, there's literally no room to say no there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to pay you. We're going to call it part of your work, one of your sessions. Yeah. That's exactly what they were saying. And Gio, I think what you're saying is dead on too about why this movie related. Like, I can't stress enough how big it is that the language barrier broke so much on this, that this movie won the freaking Oscar for Best Picture. I remember watching the Oscars that night because that's what I do. I had just seen Parasite in the theaters that day, actually. I saw it earlier that morning, walked over to my house, waited for the Oscars to start. And when he won Best Director, I don't know if you ever saw Bong Joon-ho's acceptance speech for this.
Yeah, I did.
And he is more surprised than anybody else in that room.
He can't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. To the point where with Best Picture, he didn't even have a speech written.
It's like that.
To
me,
he cut it really short because they were all hungry.
Yeah, I remember that. He said, I'm going to drink a lot tonight. It was just...
I love.
And I think you're right though, because there's not a lot of American movies or North American movies that really speak to the common person's predicament as well as this. Like, this wasn't a movie where this wasn't like a big sci-fi movie where it's like, yeah, we all live in the slums and we are all the poor people and the rich live in these big literal ivory towers and there's laser guns. And we're like, it's not one of these like Dread type things where it's like, we're going to take, I love the movie Dread, but it's not an example like that where we're going to take the class divide and make it this huge extreme sci-fi thing. What's crazy is that it showed that there's more than enough drama and suspense to just come out of our daily need to live.
When you watch it, you're like, this could totally happen.
Yeah, there's nothing about this that's out of the realm of reality. And like,
No.
and I remember reading somewhere that there was actually truth to this whole underground bunker thing with Korean mansions.
Yeah, you're right. I read that too. So it would be interesting to explore that back again because it's true. Yeah.
And if I'm wrong about that, please do feel free to send me hate mail.
They went to so many lengths to get everything right in this. This street outside the Parks house where there's the old lady and,
Yeah.
the busy little street. So the art director, he actually went to ghost towns that were about to be demolished and took pictures and references to make that street. And he actually got the detail to a point where he would take silicone molds of the brick walls and stuff there to make sure it was
Wow.
like the same.
Wow.
That is incredible. I remember watching the movie in theaters because I also saw it in theaters. I was going to see it by myself, and then in the last second, our mutual friend James Clark, who was on an episode last season, we talked about the Batman. I got him to go with me in the last moment. He had no idea this movie was Korean. He had no idea it was a drama. I was like, "Do you want to go see Parasite?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And he talks to me like a minute in. He's like, "Is this whole movie Korean?" I was like, "Yeah, what do you think it was?" I don't know. I thought it was like some fucking monster movie or something. It was called Parasite. Like, he loved the movie, by the way. I want to point that out. He thought the movie was fantastic. So, like, leaving this movie and seeing that in the theaters in the big screen and just having that, the first time you see that house, you just feel immersed. And when you see that bay window with that beautiful shot of the grass out front, I mean, of course, it's all in a studio, but it's like one hell of an effective studio. That whole thing feels so peaceful. And just, you know what I'm saying with this?
Yeah, no, it's totally the representation of the wealthy now. Like all those like very minimalistic, full like windows kind of.
No personality to it whatsoever.
Yeah, very like all is gray and white and things like that. It's not and that is actually the aesthetic, and it's been for quite a couple of years of some of the most rich people houses.
I also find it interesting that within that house that, you've got that minimalist vibe. Even the artwork is dictated by the sun.
Yeah.
Because the only reason they have those big expressionist pieces on the wall is because of how the sun draws. So,
He's talented. I love those paintings of
but
glitter.
I just find it interesting that where you kind of see where the power is in that house.
Well, yeah, and so also the complete lack of personality in the sense that when you go to the Kim's house, the sub-basement, it's tiny, but it feels lived in. It feels kind of more,
It's clutter.
it's cluttered, it's lived in. Whenever you're at the Parks house, everything just feels like, one thing I love is that there's this constant portrayal of image, but there's this constant focus on the concept of image, especially with the parks. So, right from the get-go, the first one is, oh, but you love your wife. Well, she doesn't cook, she doesn't clean, but you love her. Yes. Well, we will call it love. You know what I mean? Like, he never does say he loves her. It's about having that very attractive housewife, even though in a sense, the housewife can't actually do the duties of a housewife. You know what I mean?
The image of the perfect housewife.
You got the image of the perfect house. You can't have any personality in this place whatsoever. Got to keep the place very clean. We've all known those people with, for quote unquote, the velvet rooms growing up that we can never step foot in. But it creates this perfect idea of their family.
A kid's wedding?
Sorry, kid's birthday.
Yeah, I don't remember kid's wedding.
It's the kid's birthday, but it's just like that you have the woman singing opera at a kid's birthday. Like, who is this to impress?
Yeah, like what is she doing here?
But I love that because it's all about the image of how you're doing as opposed to how you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And how you actually are mentally. And you see that again in the birthday from hell, as I'm going to keep calling it. In this last moment here, you also see when the Parks have their first attack, when the Kims have their first attack, the Parks see somebody that they've invited here because look at their kid just watched them die, and they're not even asking like how she is when she gets stabbed, right? One thing I love about this is when you see the Kims and the concern for their family within this movie, they're constantly complimenting the family. You got Buddy grabbing his wife's butt in this. You got that scene in the moment. He's not even going to look away from his daughter in this moment when she's in peril. And Sometimes they say, the less we have, the closer we are together. There's a lot of sayings like that. I think this movie does show that to an extent. Like that family, the Kim's family loves each other in ways I don't think the Park family truly understands.
And even when they fall down the stairs, you see that way. He's like, Dad, no, my ankle. Gets a very, there's a lot of connection there.
Yeah.
When they're filming and
When he films that.
when the housekeeper is filming it. Okay,
In the basement, yeah.
Yeah. And they're all trying to help each other out, and they're always having fun together. They love each other. They're playing games together. They're drinking together. And I mean, I'll go back to meanwhile saying like the daughter in the Park family is never thought about, never really considered. The mother is just kind of doing her thing day in, day out until the dad comes home, and then she's happy little housewife. And it's like,
yeah.
there's a definitely big difference in how these families actually care for each other and love each other. I think in those last moments where it really does show the family's in peril, I think that's actually a moment that highlights how much closer the Kims truly are with each other, despite how little they have.
It's usually like that, right? I'm not saying that people who have a lot of money don't love each other, don't have really healthy spaces for love and for connection, but they do tend to lose connection because so much of their energy goes into impressing the external. It's always about the external, right? Like a person that lives in a low-income place or whatever, they're just gonna love each other. They have to stick with each other. They have to help each other.
Yeah, it's important to be a good family and support each other than to look like a good family.
Well, they don't have anybody to impress, like that's the thing.
That's just it. And like, even with them, like you got the dad saying things like, oh man, it'd be amazing if Harvard had a degree in forgery. You'd win. Like, but the thing is, it sounds like a joke. It's not like they could ever afford Harvard, but that's a genuine compliment to his daughter. And it's like, I just think it's so cute that they're supporting things like his daughter's forgery abilities and their ability to get them snuck into this house. And I just think there's such a nice wholesomeness to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's like, I mean, everybody, I think all three of us come from working class families. And I think one thing is true. We all have siblings that we very much love. And so I have a brother. I'm very close to my brother. I'm very close to my mother. And I think seeing his family, you can kind of see how first thing the brother tries to do is like, my sister is so great at this one thing. Let's get her involved. And then it's like the first thing they're trying to do is trying to help the whole family, and they all celebrate together. And I think it's very important to show that they never really showed. I don't think they ever actually showed the Park family all together as one unit at any point in the movie.
They did only when they're in the car going back from camping, like in the car, but that's
Yeah.
that's not even like they're sitting having dinner together or chatting.
And how many times did we see the Kim family around the table together laughing?
And they celebrate each other, too.
Yeah.
We have here something to say about demonizing poor people and people who have no ability to make good incomes and stuff. So there are, like, they went into the wrong side to do wrong things. They could have gone through, try to make it work if they're just like not doing criminal activities, because that's obviously criminal what they were doing. But at the same time, a lot of people who are desperate to bring the food to the table have to go for the extreme ways to make it happen, and there is something to say about that. So as society, this person just went to the supermarket and installed rice or whatever for their kids. Maybe they do fucking need it and they don't have any other way to get it.
Yeah. It's like the old saying, when you see somebody stealing food from a grocery store, you didn't see anything. And I totally get what you're saying with that.
Not to justify what they did.
No, but it's like the other thing too, though, is that with their actual plan they had in this movie and the plot and all that, I mean, okay, attacking her with peaches was probably illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was lying to the family to get the jobs illegal? I don't think that actually was. It was maybe wrong, but
Yeah, well,
I don't think it was illegal. I mean, they screwed over other working class people who were doing that to take their jobs. So I don't know if that's illegal, though.
morally unacceptable.
Oh, there's a lot of morally unacceptable things they did in this movie.
Yeah, no, you're right. But they are also the key people too, so they go into that.
I would say the illegal things they did that I support during the movie ended getting Jessica hired, because then they're not screwing over anyone else, really. They actually did need an art teacher, and he was replacing someone. So theoretically, even if they kept the plan just at that, they would have been able to save money.
But what about the mother and father? How did they get to be parasites?
They have to throw away they have to
Peaches.
Well, what's the movie now, Kayla?
No, but it's a lot that we could talk about this movie. This movie has, as I said in the beginning, it has that possibility. That's the kind of art I'm really attached to. in every aspect of art that can be made, but specifically in films, that I love when folks have deeper themes to explore and they're telling you something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. I love entertaining films that are made just to entertain you and pretty much it. That's also awesome. But I have a special love for films that bring you all those that's the conversation we're having here today. We could go for hours.
You know what's crazy about this movie, though? This movie, I was actually saying when we rewatched this the other day, it is just shy of about 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You're talking about, like, there's entertaining movies and there's ones like this. Like, I am, like, a big superhero fan. 2019 had Avengers Endgame, and this was probably the most entertaining movie that year because the actual pacing of it, Avengers Endgame was number 2. With Parasite, I never knew what to expect. I was kept on my seat every single scene, whether it was from the masterful composition that Bong Joon-ho has in his films. Again, I want to point out Memories of a Murder. If anybody has not seen it, go see that movie. Beautiful, beautiful shot composition throughout the whole thing. But whether it be through that, whether it be through the interesting music choices, the very funny dialogue that actually comes up quite often, the second half shift into suddenly becoming like a thriller into a horror film, while still maintaining that same kind of identity and that same kind of tone. It doesn't feel like you're suddenly watching a brand new movie. It feels like general continuation. Like, for a lot of these reasons, like when I was in the theater seeing it, I never got bored. I was honestly quite surprised to find out it was 2 hours and 15 minutes. I thought it was like an hour and a half. You do not feel the length of this. And I think what maybe, some people might say, oh, well, maybe some people would have seen it more if they knew that, blah, blah, blah. But this movie actually did quite well in theaters when it came out. It got an extended release.
Obviously, after winning all the Oscars.
Totally. And I think it's fairly accurate to say that Parasite's success has a direct line to Netflix going all in. Like, Netflix didn't do Parasite, but Netflix went pretty big on South Korean content after Netflix. They did, Squid Game. They had
Yeah.
Alice in Borderland, I think was South Korean.
To be honest, there's tons of like series, like almost as I was mentioning to you guys before, that are almost like very soap opera kind of. They're good. So that's what I'm trying to say with technicality of this whole movie. I think as a South Korean director, like he knew what he was doing and he knows how to play that level of keeping you. It's a very intellectual the way it catches you, but it's also very entertaining, as you say. So I think it's just a very amazing, mature director to be doing something like that. Yeah. I read somewhere that all the experience that he has had through making all his films led him to make this amazing masterpiece that it is. Because I do believe personally that are a masterpiece.
Although he doesn't think it's a masterpiece anywore. He's come out and said that he's rewatched it and there's things in there that he thinks doesn't work. So
Oh, of course.
I mean, everyone.
We're the worst. And really, like I think there's gonna be a movie, you gotta be really pretentious if you as a director sit down to watch your movie 3 years later. I mean, Tarantino says that he does that and that he still loves his movies. I watch the movies or the little projects that I had made, and I always have things to criticize about it. Is like, this movie is so long. Why didn't I cut 25 minutes of this movie? This movie is awfully long. Things like that. That is not
Let's see a perfect 14, by the way.
It's long.
Kind of an endorsement is that it's your own damn film.
It's very good. I love my film.
It's a very interesting dive into the world of plus size modeling for anyone who is curious.
But I will say, if Bong Joon-ho is listening to this, if he's one of our 100 monthly listeners, it is a masterpiece. I do agree with you about that, actually, about Parasite. It is one of those movies, like, I don't believe in perfect movies, but it comes pretty damn close. That is something that I absolutely will say. And I will also say, when he won the Golden Globe for best, I think it was, when he won the Cannes Film Festival for this film, and he won the Palme d'Or, I believe it was. And he said, if the world was able to look past the 2-inch window called subtitles, you'd be open to an entire world of amazing films. And one thing that I think this movie did was it actually broke down that window for a lot of people.
True. Yep.
And ways that we hadn't seen other movies kind of really do.
And you're so right. It opened the doors for a lot of more South Korean content coming to North America. We are seeing a lot more in the streaming services everywhere, and it's really good. To think that the only movies that people should be watching, or that some people I still find that weird, though, because I'm Colombian, I have to watch a lot of movies with subtitles and things, even like I rather watch even people speaking English, which I speak okay, I still want to watch it with subtitles to not miss anything that might be a word that I don't know, or anything. So for me, it's weird to hear people say that in North America, like, oh, I don't watch movies with subtitles. But people are still saying that. It's like, well, like what again? How did they do? Like, what does it have to do? How can you not enjoy a movie just for what it is?
Some people, I think, just don't even want to try, and they're going to wait till it's dubbed. My problem with dubbed performances is that you're not actually watching the actor's performance.
Exactly. I refuse to do that in Colombia. That's maybe how I learned a bit of English even younger. Like, you can't see their performance. You can't enjoy their performance. You can't connect with their performances. There's another person talking on top of them. Like, it's just
You get a different level of emotional inflection because just by the nature of dubbing, when you're putting it into English is often shorter or longer and the mouth movements are different. So you have to make words to fit the mouth movements, and it's not even, the best way to say it, really.
So among all this, it's very funny that his next movie was the English language Mickey 17, which David Zaslav just screwed over. And I'm not a fan of Zaslav. However, I do want to say that is actually the time that we have for our episode. Giovanna, thank you so much for coming in today.
no, thank you so much for having me here. And you, like, these two, for people who are listening to us, these two are two of my best friends. And so I'm so proud of actually being part of this amazing podcast. And we need a space as filmmakers to talk about movies. Like, why not, right? And then, as you were explaining,
Filmmakers never get to gush about other movies.
like in front of like a lot of people know.
When I'm at a festival and I'm going to talk about my own movie, it's the hardest thing ever. If I was just going to go to a festival for my own movie, they're like, hey, Kevin, just sit down and talk about Back to the Future for like 2 hours. I'm done. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Kevin, talk about your own movie. I guess it has a title. I don't.
I'll just feel like, do you want me to talk about The Last Unicorn? Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Gio, anything you want to just talk about? Anything you want to sell? Anything you want to promote before we take off here? Anything you got coming up?
Yeah, so I'm working in a project that is gonna become a mini documentary. I'm in the post-production process of it, so I'm really excited. I'm not gonna tell you anything about it, but it involves subjects from Colombia, from Mexico, people from Montreal, and different parts of the world, actually. I'm really excited to bring that project, and just in development of a couple of other bigger projects, but that's gonna take a few years, so I'm not even gonna talk about it.
All right. Well, that is all for us today. Thank you, Giovanna, so much for joining us today.
And
Thank
thank you for bringing us such a wonderful movie today.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. If you'd like to show your support, then visit martiniwindow.com and come buy us a coffee or buy yourself some merch.